In this video, we're going to show you how to make this. It's a shoyu sauce, very reminiscent of a soy sauce, and it's made out of mushrooms you might otherwise have just walked right on by while foraging. This is pheasant back mushroom, or dryad saddle. The reason why it's called a pheasant back mushroom is because the pattern on it is very similar to the pattern of feathers on a pheasant's back. Usually you'd pick it about this size, but we picked it as big as we could find it and as much as we could find because we are going to turn it into a delicious fermented sauce very similar to soy sauce, or what historically ketchup used to be before we started making it out of tomatoes. So what we need to do is mix it together with inoculated rice and then let it ferment. The rice we're using is called koji rice. It's been inoculated with a mold called Aspergillus oryzae. You can find this stuff on Amazon, and we'll leave a link below in the description. Here in Northern Ontario, pheasant back mushrooms are one of the first mushrooms available in the spring. You find them growing on dead and dying trees. We mainly find them on ash, but they grow on several different tree species. For the best texture, small, young mushrooms are preferred, but not for this recipe. We need a lot of mushroom, and texture doesn't matter. So we target the huge mushroom that would otherwise be considered past their prime. We have a nice big pile of freshly harvested, oversized pheasant back mushrooms here. These are very aromatic mushrooms. They have a cucumber or a melon scent. For this batch of sauce, we are going to use 5 pounds of freshly foraged pheasant back mushroom. We're going to need to blend the rice together with the mushrooms, but first we have to cut it into smaller pieces in order to fit it in there, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. Wow, that one is giant. We are going to use 5 pounds of pheasant back mushroom, 1 pound of the inoculated koji rice, and then mix together with salt and water, and then let it ferment. Now we're going to process the rice together with the mushroom with the food processor. So this rice has already been inoculated with the mold. So that took some effort, and we got about as far as we could with the food processor. So now we're going to add in the salt and the water, put it in a pot, and then blend it some more. We're using this pot because we need something bigger. We're going to mix together all of the chopped up rice together with this pheasant back. Together with 570 grams of coarse salt, pickling salt, just the no additive salt. Then we need 2,275 milliliters of water, and then we'll blend. Now we're going to put it into the jars. Not all the way full. You need to leave some room for juices to come out. When it's fermenting, the level might rise. So you have to leave some room, or else you'll get fermenty juices all over the place. Now, the amount of salt that we put in here, that is really high if you're just doing like a yeast type of ferment, so you might have been shocked. But this kind of mold, totally fine with that high salt concentration, and you really need that high salt concentration for it to be like a soy sauce substitute, because that stuff is super salty. This is going to end up being much lighter than a soy sauce. If you used like a darker mushroom, you would have had more of a darker, what your classic soy sauce would look like. So we have these canning jar lids for this. It allows some air to escape if it needs to burp. These things might need to burp. But another step we want to do is put some plastic film on the top layer of it so it doesn't get really, really dark.
So we're gonna put this plastic film on here so it doesn't oxidize. And we'll do that to each one. It might look like we have a ton here and we're gonna have way too much soy sauce, but we're straining the juice out of this. We're not keeping all this, so we're actually gonna get a lot less than what it looks like now. Okay, so that's just gonna form a barrier so that the air is not coming in contact with the air. And then we just put on the fermenting lid. And these are ready to go and wait for a whole month.
The pheasant back mushroom, koji rice, and salt mixture has been fermenting for about 2 months now. While we left this for 2 months, it's not an exact science about how much time you want to leave it. It's all about the flavor profile that you're looking for. We tried these about a month ago and we thought it was pretty close. And so we left it for another month and it is now perfect. The first step is removing the plastic wrap that you put on the top. So remember, we put that on the top to stop the mushrooms from oxidizing. So I'm going to pull that out now. And as you can see, there is a little bit of mold growth that happened around the edges that is not really touching the mushroom, but because of that, I like to remove the top layer of the mushrooms just in case we don't want anything gross in there. So you don't really need to worry about this stuff on the top. It's not bad for you. It's what typically grows in a fermented product. And then I just use a little bit of paper towel to wipe the sides. And so all we have left is just the mushroom product. No added flavors. But again, none of this is dangerous. It's just a taste profile that I prefer. I've already done that for these two. So now all 3 of these are ready for the next step. For the next step, you're gonna need a pot, a spoon, and a clean cotton towel. Drape the cloth over the pot and pour this in. And then squeeze it out. We got all that liquid. Okay. The finer the mesh, the clearer the liquid will be. As you can see, this is not a dark brown like soy sauce is. This is not soy sauce. This is similar flavors to soy sauce. And in this case, it's a mushroom shoyu. And delicious in its own right. Even though we did add a little bit of water, the majority of this moisture has been drawn out of the mushrooms by the salt. I'm going to put what's left of this in this bowl and move on to the other ones, getting all that liquid out. Look at that. And this is what's left over. We'll move on to the other 2. We found one single source that reports pheasant back mushrooms as one of the few wild mushrooms that are safe to eat raw, indicating that this shoyu should be safe to eat without cooking. However, we do not feel safe with the single reference, and so we will be cooking this sauce. We also prefer the deeper, more intense flavor you get from reducing the shoyu. It also results in a darker color, more reminiscent of soy sauce. We are going to bring this up to a boil and then keep it at a simmer to reduce it. We've been cooking for a while now. We started with about 3 liters, and now we're down to about 1. And as you can see, it's also a lot darker in color. So we are ready now to bottle it up. So I've filled up these flip top bottles with hot water so that they don't crack when I put the hot shoyu in. And I have a funnel, so I can empty that out now. So there will be some sediment that will settle to the bottom of these bottles, but that is totally fine. It's actually quite tasty. So we don't filter that out, but if you prefer just a clear shoyu sauce, then you might want to filter that out. So not quite 2 of these bottles, but that's fine. I'm gonna clean these off and pop the lids on loosely to let it cool. And I'll show you what it looks like after it's cooled. And here's the final product. We ended up with just under a liter of this stuff. It is delicious, it's salty, it's mushroomy, very reminiscent of soy sauce, and it's great on things like stir fry or really anything else you'd use soy sauce for. It is a great way to use those pheasant back mushrooms that you see all the time on the trees that are too big for eating, but just perfect for this.